Hi, I'm Brian Tyler. Check me out on OnTheGig.com. Hey. So here's a bunch of the stuff that I use to make the music. Gear-wise, I like doing kind of an analog front end and a digital, back end in a way, which really everything obviously really ends up being digital in the long run. But as much as I can do analog at the front, I do, which in that room is a lot of the recording, the analog recording that I do, and then that goes through, my preamps and the microphones all kind of go through that, go underground, and then they all that comes into this kind of the brain of the studio here, and I use Apogee converters and all that, and I just go from analog to digital and go into Pro Tools. The Pro Tools I've found is really a great way to mix down stuff, and once it's kind of captured in the digital world, and that's why I've got all these Mac Pros here. Really what it is this one here is for Pro Tools, and this one here is for Logic, and I use Logic really as more of a workstation for synths and plugins and things like that, and then I record into Pro Tools. So and that's where like the board comes in. Really, the board is a control surface for Pro Tools. It's not I don't use it for preamps or mics or anything like that particularly. It just kind of works as a interface, because I like to have everything really handy. I have guitars all over the place. As you can see, I'm right in the middle of recording, so I've got kind of guitars and basses and then electric cellos and guitar viols and all that kind of thing, and then I can go straight in through Manly Direct here, go into Pro Tools, manipulate it in Pro Tools. I can control all my synths here with my MIDI controller keyboard, trigger anything I want. But everything becomes kind of the sum of the parts, because gear-wise, I need to be centralized here in the studio, because basically, since I mostly do film composing, I'm going to have producers and directors and whatnot here in the studio, and kind of has to treat it like a theater. That's why instead of me facing all the recording room, I'm facing the big screen. So because the movie's always central, it's always the focus point. So big screen, then we're in 5.1 surround here. I'm here at the controls, and then behind me, the producers and directors can kind of kick back and they can just kind of go to sleep, after having a drink or two, and then wake up when I play the music. But yeah, so it's kind of this is the main crux of what I do in terms of recording, mixing, and playback. But the thing I really like to do when I'm recording, before anyone gets here to listen to the music, is record in here. And let's go right there. So this is kind of like the live room. So this is where analog meets digital, right? Got the Steinway, the piano here. I write a lot of my music on that and I record. And then I just like having stuff around. I'm a drummer as well, so always trying to track live drums. And I just keep all the mics set up and the overheads and everything and hooked up to my preamps, so I never have to break it down and kind of re-mic. And once I get a sound in my levels, boom, I'm in, and then I can manipulate with compressors and whatnot in Pro Tools. Also just things like, you never know when you're going to need a marimba, So got the marimba, the vibraphone, cimbalum, and then a bunch of guitars, the cello, and then all this percussion's out because I was working on Fast 5, which is in Brazil. So there's a lot of that, kind of Brazilian percussion thing going on. And that's where a lot of also the charango comes into play. Oh, it's been detuned. What in the world? Someone's been tinkering. But anyway, yeah, the charango and all these kind of like nylon guitar and these things that pop up in the movie. I tend to keep them around because I have more instruments than this, and they don't fit. So for me, I have to have storage. And It looks like a surdo is sitting here in my chair. So basically also what I can do is I can go down and play drums there, record myself, and that's why I have this Pro Tools interface here. This is key. I can control Pro Tools that's in the other room from here because it's hooked up through Ethernet underground, and it's really handy because that eliminates the need to have an engineer here at 3 or 4 in the morning when I'm tracking. And the whole thing about composing, you know, is you never know when it's going to hit you, and it's really a 24-hour job. So I can track myself drumming. I can go in here, you know, the mics are also always set up here. That's like another key thing for me. If at all possible, just try to keep things set up ahead of time so you can just go in, hit record, and you don't have to reset up and get your levels again and do all that kind of thing, because it just takes away from the precious time that none of us have. And then I just keep all these kind of in here. I do tinker with these depending on the sound I want from the drums. You know, these EMI TG2s are cool. They're like basically aping the Abbey Road Beatles board, you know, and you can really crank the hell out of those and get a really nice crunchy saturated sound. And I use them for the piano and the drums, and then the Focusrite I kind of use for different things. And but you know, that's basically the workflow, how it goes from here to here and then here back into there, room to room. And then at the end of it all, I usually, it depends on a film, I usually end up going and conducting the orchestra somewhere like at Fox or at Sony or in London or wherever. And all this stuff I record here, we have in Pro Tools ahead of time, bring it to the scoring stage, then mix it all together there. This is a little guy. I think this is... I always seem to have shakers around, and it's kind of like, you know.
So you play a lot of instruments.
Yeah, I play quite a few, I suppose. You know, it's kind of by necessity in a way. I love playing instruments, but I started on the drums when I was young tyke. I don't remember when exactly. I don't really have memory of the time, but apparently I was 4 or so. Then piano was next. Then guitar kind of came, you know, these are just kind of the early years. And then as I started going on and I was in college, I kind of picked up some world instruments and that kind of thing. But then as time went and just through my film scoring career, I'll just buy an instrument. Like the cello was something I picked up, I just bought one. And I thought, I'll see. You know, I'm just going to buy one and see if I can handle this. It's not easy. But through time, picked it up. Finally got kind of my thing going, got the bowing right, and at least to a level where I can record the cello and I can do some solos and things like that. In scoring, I'm never going to be Yo-Yo Ma, but the idea is that if you can play a lot of these things, some of them better than others. You know, I'm more of like a, you know, at one level on drums and piano and guitar, and then another level down on like things like cello, but if you can play these percussion instruments and marimba and timpani, all these things, the cool thing is at any time of the day, even if you're not the greatest player in the world, you can track stuff live, and it just is going to, for that kind of thing, is going to sound better than samples. You know, and it's going to also give you like a nice gritty edge that sometimes gets, those edges get polished off when you use a lot of just like tons and tons and tons of samples, and there's nothing ever recorded with a microphone. You start to, it all sums, and it ends up kind of taking away the three-dimensional kind of sound that we're used to with live musicians. So as much as I can go through a microphone, I want to. I think the better. Keeping those sound waves bouncing around, and that's why I made sure I wanted to build this studio so it, you know, it tall ceilings and everything like that. I didn't have a studio like this. I've gone for my whole career. I mean, I started in a tiny room above a garage, you know, and I had gear. It was kind of like a mini version of this, but I still had instruments hanging around, and kind of I would at least try to track live as much as I could.
Definitely.
And then I kind of moved to an interim studio, which was more like this, but just not quite as big. And then, you know, you just kind of build up, and as the career keeps going, hopefully in the right direction, then you just get more toys to record with.
Absolutely.